What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with some NFL predictions with the preseason training camp, all that stuff just right around the corner. Why not get some hot takes? Why not stick my neck out there in a couple things? So today we're looking at the AFC West. We'll be ranking the teams 1 through 4 on where they're going to finish within the division, as well as just kind of looking at each team, giving some takes here and there. Hopefully not too hot for you. And with the AFC West, it was without a doubt I've only done the AFC as of me recording this, but they're the last ones, and they were definitely the toughest division. The AFC South was kind of tough, but they're not nearly as talented. The AFC West, though, looking at the schedules, there's a lot of games that can go either way, so I tried to be fairly generous. So we're going to start at number 4, which is probably going to be kind of surprising to folks. I have the Denver Broncos finishing at 8-8, but they do have the highest ceiling out of any of these teams with a 10-6. You just don't know with the Denver Broncos. Their offensive line was not that great last year, and I don't know if Garrett Bowles is a lonesome. Gonna fix the tackle spot there for them. Obviously, they got Ronald Leary from the Dallas Cowboys. That was a nice pickup, but is that enough for that offensive line to be able to establish a run game, make holes for C.J. Anderson? I can't say yes for sure. You'd hope it was. It potentially could, but they still have questions to answer there. And I think the defensive line is as weak as it's been in the last 5 years. I don't see a whole lot there on that defensive line. Luckily, you can make up for it for a really good linebacking core and one of the best secondaries, but that D-line is not that great, and this is a team that really needs their defense to get them to the ship, you know, for a lack of a better word. So the MVP, though, for me this year, for this 8-8, but a ceiling of 10-6, is going to be Chris Harris. I mean, you could debatably say he was their MVP last season. I mean, we might go with, NFL Network number 2 overall player Von Miller, because that's not fucking retarded. But Chris Harris, I know, debatably the best corner in the football today. I'd probably say he is the best corner. I've made the comparison in the past. He's Antonio Brown of the cornerbacks. Undersized, doesn't really make sense why he's that good from just looking at him. But from the technique standpoint, from starting the game, it's pretty much unparalleled and doing all the hard things, right? Where the guys that are, guys that get keep to lead, which they're just rangy, long athletes. Chris Harris don't have that luxury, but they're able to still perform at an uber elite level. But for me, he will be their MVP. Looking at their bust, I'm just going to go with Jamal Charles, just because I don't think Jamal Charles at this state is even better than C.J. Anderson, but of course he's probably going to get the headlines. The casual fans, fantasy football fans, they're going to be looking at Jamal Charles. So, I mean, I don't want to group this in saying, like, this is a bust that most Bronco fans are think is going to be really good. I mean, maybe casual Bronco fans do, but I think C.J. Anderson still is and should be the top back in that backfield. In terms of sleeper, I'm going to go with Carlos Henderson. I really wanted to go with Shane Ray to have another breakout year, but he kind of did that last year. What do you have, like 7-8 sacks, something like that? So I'm going to go with Carlos Henderson, the wide receiver that they drafted. I think he's really, really good. I think, where's he from? LA Tech, I think it was. Really good with the ball. Like, even though he's a wide receiver, once he gets the ball in his hands, kind of looks like a running back. I think he's a great fit and should be wide receiver 3, I think, after Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. And for the first round pick, Garrett Bowles, I think he'll make probably 14 starts. Looking at our lads, they have Sam Braylo over him at left tackle, I think, is what I saw. Excuse me. So I think 14 starts when all said and done for a guy that's just an uber athlete, like a mini Lane Johnson. Not going to say he's going to be as good as Lane Johnson, who in my biased opinion is the top right tackle in the National Football League, but very similar skill sets. Moving on to number 3, I'm going with the LA Chargers, finishing with a 9-7 record. I think overall these records is probably going to be the toughest division in football. I think their floor is 7-9. I think 9-7 is about as high as they can go, just because it's already started with Mike Williams. There's going to be a costly injury somewhere around the way. They can't stay healthy. If they stayed healthy, they're a 10-win team with the ceiling of that. But there's no way, man. I don't know they're cursed. They're now going to be playing in a terrible fucking stadium. Can't believe they moved to LA. One of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen. Greedy owner. But looking at the Chargers, MVP is going to be Phillip Rivers, I think. Plenty of weapons there at wide receiver. Bust, I'm going to go with Desmond King just because I think they're currently going to try to play him at corner. I really see him as a safety. I don't think he has the hips. He doesn't have the explosiveness to play corner, but I think he's currently listed as their nickel. I think he'll struggle there. Their sleeper, I'm going with Forrest Lamp because I think Forrest Lamp can be one of those guys. He's going to be like an all-rookie team. All-rookie team starting guard. He's going to be a tremendous player, very versatile. If there's any injuries, which we know always happens, he could probably play tackle too if one of those 2 tackles gets hurt there for the Chargers. So a very versatile player. He's my sleeper to make a bigger impact than some people are already saying. And for the first round pick, Mike Williams, I think he's going to finish around the 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. A lot of mouths to feed in that wide receiver core. You got Keenan Allen. Hopefully he comes back healthy. Inman, Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin. You got Antonio Gates, Hunter Henry, Melvin Gordon catches at the backfield. There's just a lot of mouth to feed. Don't know if he's going to get, as a rookie, a whole bunch of looks, but 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, certainly something to build upon. Their strengths is obviously their pass attack, and their weakness for me is their safety core. Not a big fan of their safety core. Maybe if they move Des King to safety, you might be looking at that. But as right now, Chargers, I have them at 9-7. Go number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them finishing 10-6 with a floor of 8-8. Kind of tough to see now looking at, no more Jeremy Maclin. He wasn't really anything great there, but still was the best wide receiver on that team. I still think Tyreek Hill, while explosive, while effective, is kind of gimmicky as a wide receiver, unproven to be able to run the same kind of route tree that Jerry Maclin was able to. Looking at their MVP, I think it's going to be Justin Houston. You saw later in the season, Justin Houston was taking over games. Only had like 4 or 5 starts in the end of the season. He was just devastating. So I think he's ready to come back on an absolute tear. Their bust for me is going to be Chris Conley. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be expected to step up, because going into the year, you kind of had Jerry Maclin and Tyreek. Now that he's gone, it's going to be Tyreek and Chris Conley. I don't think Chris Conley's going to be able... everything is relative when talking about the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers, because, there's only so much you can do with Alex Smith in an attack that doesn't really like to throw the ball downfield. But I just don't think Chris Conley's going to really cover for what you're losing in Jerry Maclin. The sleeper, as an Eagle fan, I'm just going Benny Logan, just because I haven't seen lots of Chiefs fans ranting and raving that they got a beast in Benny Logan. Going back to a 3-4, I think you're going to be saying Dontari Power by the time Benny Logan is done. And then the first round pick, Patty Mahomes, I'll give him 0. I don't think he sees the field at all this year. The Chiefs are going to be competitive for the entire season. I have them getting at 10-6, the first wild card spot, which we already talked, that the Ravens get the second one. So I don't see any games where they can just, unless, because at 10-6, they're not going to be comfortable enough that they could rest Alex Smith down the stretch. And why would you want to add unnecessary quarterback controversy shit by doing that? So I just don't think he's going to see the field, barring injury. But Alex Smith has been pretty healthy for the most part. I think he only missed, 1 or 2 games last year with Nick Foles. Beast Foles, got to come in. But look at the Chiefs' their strengths. Obviously, is a linebacking core. Tremendous linebacking core. Tamba Hali, Justin Houston, Derek Johnson. Hali and... Johnson obviously getting up there in age. D Ford had a bunch of sacks last year. Very, very strong linebacking core. I actually like Ramik Wilson as well. The weakness for me is their wide receivers. But, if you're a Chiefs fan looking at how your team plays, wide receivers being your weakest spot, just throw it to Travis Kelce and one of the running backs. You'll be fine. And then number 1 in the AFC, it's going to be the Oakland Raiders. I have them finishing 11-5 with a floor of 10-6. I think they're going to get the second first-round bye after the New England Patriots, the number 2 seed in the AFC. Their MVP for me is going to be Derek Carr. I think with Marshawn Lynch now in there, it's going to actually make Derek Carr's life easier. I think more teams are going to respect the run game where they might not have so much with Latavius Murray, because did make a lot after the first contact. We had to respect him because of that offensive line, but I don't think they were really respecting the run game because of Latavius Murray. Now it's a different scenario with Marshawn Lynch, which should open up things, have easier matchups on the outside because teams are going to be trying to stuff the box. The bust for me is Marshawn Lynch, and it's relative just because there are extreme sides of the spectrum. That's where both people are. There's some people that think he's going to be terrible because he had a year out of football and he didn't look that great when he was finishing up with the Seahawks. There are people that think he's going to, MVP. He's going to have 1,200 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, which makes him a bust in some people's eyes. That's why I'm putting him there. But I think he's going to be a great fit. I think he's going to be very similar to what we have in Philly here in LeGarrette Blount. I think he's going to probably get 700-800 yards because they still have 2 decent running backs in Richard and Washington there. So I think, they're going to have 3 guys, 3 fresh legs on all points. But I'm going to say 700 yards and maybe 10 touchdowns for Marshawn, which is still a great return, just not the kind of return I think the most optimistic fans are thinking of. So like I say, it's a relative bust. For sleeper, I'm going to go Jarrett Cook. I think that's a great dimension there. A little bit more explosive and more refined route running tree than Clive Walford, who's been their top outlet tight end for quite some time. So I think Cook is definitely a guy, especially in fantasy football terms, could be a good waiver wire pickup. Look at the first round pick, Garyon Conley. I think he's going to have 1 interception and 6 pass deflections. It's going to be tough for him to get a lot of starting snaps, I think, with Sean Smith and David Anderson being the 2 starters there at corner, but he's probably going to be the 3rd guy. Next man up, very talented. I just don't necessarily know how many looks he's going to get. I assume, it's forward thinking with him once, because Sean Smith is starting to slow down. Didn't have really that great of a year last season. So Conley's going to make it so they can probably move on from Sean Smith next season. Look at their strengths. It's obviously their offensive line. Very good offensive line. Their weakness for me is inside linebacker, which I'm still very surprised they haven't tried to sign anyone. Gerald Hodges was there forever before he went to the Bills, I think. Very surprised they didn't go after that. And their defensive tackle. Looking at their defensive line, the tackles look fairly weak on paper. But all in all, Raiders are a very solid team. As long as they can keep it up defensively and match their offense, they're going to be, without a doubt, the second best team in the AFC behind the Patriots. So there you go, guys. Those are my AFC West predictions. As always, if you agree or disagree with anything you heard here today, let me know in the comment section below. Be civil. Bronco fans were terrible when I was talking about the Bronco ratings and Madden, so I assume this is going to be fucking a shit show. But if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. And until next time, C4 saying peace out.